Pastor Zachery Timms. You won't believe what happened next. A kid from Baltimore, written off by the streets, cleans up his life, becomes a powerhouse preacher, and then alone in a Manhattan hotel room. His story ends with questions that still echo today. Let's rewind. Zachery Timms was born into chaos and scarcity, the kind of environment that teaches you to fight or fold. As a teen, he chose the wrong armor crack cocaine until a jail cell wake-up call at 19 flipped the script. He said he heard God, he promised to change, and then he actually did. He studied, earned a psychology degree, and started sharing the same message he was living. You can come back from anything. People didn't just hear his testimony, they felt it. He was raw, magnetic, brutally honest about where he'd been and how grace pulled him out. The ministry began small, folding chairs, borrowed spaces, big faith. It didn't stay small. The crowds multiplied. The sermons punched through shame and despair. You could feel the room breathe when he talked. He didn't posture as perfect. He stood up as proof. That authenticity turned him into a national voice. Flights, conferences, book deals, invitations. His calendar was a game of Tetris. And with the spotlight came the pressure, the meetings, the payroll, the expectations, the always-on image of a man who never cracks. But every always-on has an after-hours. Offstage, the load got heavy. Friends noticed the fatigue in his eyes and the restlessness in his habits. The marriage to Reva Timms strained under distance and duty, and the divorce made headlines among people who thought preachers should bleed out of sight. He kept preaching about healing, and he meant every word. But healing can be slow, especially when you're trying to be a hospital for everyone else. By the summer of 2011, he looked like a man on a comeback, busy, booked, and determined. Yet, there were signs the old battle wasn't dead, just quiet. On an August trip to New York, he checked into a hotel and never came home. When the news broke, shock rolled through his congregation like a storm front. He was 42. For a while, no one knew what to say or what to believe. Later, officials said the cause of death was the combined effects of cocaine and heroin, ruled accidental. The detail landed like a gut punch, not just because he had fallen, but because so many people had built their hope on his victory. It didn't erase the lives he'd helped, but it forced the church world to face an uncomfortable truth about hidden pain and public platforms. Grief didn't end with the funeral. A new fight began. Who would lead the movement he started? Many assumed Reva Timms' co-founder and the mother of their children would step in. Instead, the board installed another well-known pastor. The flock split. Some called it stewardship. Others called it a takeover. Legal threats flew, statements were posted, and the whole thing turned into a headline nobody wanted. Eventually, Reva withdrew her lawsuit, but the scars stayed. The ministry survived, reshaped under new leadership. Yet the unity they once had never felt quite the same. So, what really happened to Zachery Timms? Not the tabloid version, the human version. A gifted communicator climbed from the pit to the pulpit, then shouldered a platform that fed thousands while starving his own quiet needs. He preached spiritual warfare, and for him, it wasn't a metaphor. Addiction doesn't care about your title, your talent, or your follower count. It just waits patient, persistent, until stress, loneliness, or pride cracks the door. That's the part we don't like to admit about modern ministry. We turn leaders into icons, then act shocked when icons bleed. We ask for transparency, but reward performance. We say, "Come as you are," then punish pastors who do. And in that gap, between the persona and the person, shame multiplies. Secrets grow. Accountability turns into optics. The same vulnerability that first drew people to him became the thing he couldn't safely practice anymore. Now, here's the harder truth. His fall doesn't cancel his fruit. The marriages he helped patch together are still together. The ex-addicts he encouraged are still clean. The kids he told, "You matter," still matter. Redemption was never a brand he wore. It was the drum he beat, because he knew the rhythm in his bones. He once said, in essence, you can be called and still be broken. Just don't let the brokenness stop God from using you. Hear that again, without the spotlight, without the stage. It sounds less like a slogan and more like a confession. It also sounds like grace. Reva Timms kept moving, building a ministry of her own, and choosing forgiveness over feuds. She talks about healing and accountability in the same breath, a balance our culture keeps getting wrong. She doesn't reduce his life to its final chapter, and neither should we. People are not autopsy reports. They're stories, and stories have highs, lows, relapses, miracles, wrong turns, and right endings we won't see this side of eternity. What about the church he started? People still gather. They still sing. They still pray. The faces are different. The leadership is different. But the hunger that drew them there, the hope that tomorrow can beat yesterday, hasn't changed. That's his imprint, for better and for bitter. The movement outlived the man, and maybe that's the point. No one person is supposed to carry a whole sanctuary on their shoulders. So, what really happened? A prodigal son became a shepherd, then staggered under the same wolves he used to warn about. A community grieved, argued, and kept going. And a complicated legacy settled into something honest, a reminder that grace is messy, ministry is heavy, and leaders are human first. If you take nothing else from Zachery Timms's life, take this. Let your heroes be human. Make space for confession before collapse. Demand accountability that restores, not applause that destroys. And if you're the one secretly fighting, reach out before the moment you can't. Before we wrap, I want to hear from you. What do you think churches could change so leaders don't have to hide? Should we measure success by numbers, or by how safely people can tell the truth? Drop your thoughts below. I read every comment. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear a fuller, kinder version of the truth. Hit like if you value nuance over noise. Subscribe for more deep dive stories told with empathy, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Until then, take care of your soul and each other.